Welcome to ARW. This is going to be a video where I tell you about the experts who make comments on my channel. Now, these are not necessarily machining experts. I'm not a machining expert. I don't claim to be, but these are experts making comments on videos that I've made. And about I would guess 5 or 6 years ago, maybe 7, I used to shoot benchrest. They called it small bore benchrest, and that was because you used tiny little 22 long rifle cartridges to shoot at these targets at 50 yards. Now this is what the target looks like. You've got 5 by 5 there. You've got 25 targets. Now these across the top here, these don't count. These are what they call sighters. You can shoot at them all you want to and they don't count. This is to see where your bullet's going to go. Okay? Now, the part that counts is this little circle there. Let me see if I can get this thing lined up here. That little circle right there, you want to hit right in the middle of that. They get you 10 points. Alright? Or at least with a bunch I was with, that'll get you 10 points. And right in the middle of that circle, I think you can see there's a little dot. If you wipe out that dot, that counts as an X. So if one guy managed to hit the edge of the circle, which you can see this, I'm not talking about the big green circle, I'm talking about down inside there. You can see, I think, another circle. Alright? That little circle is 3.5 millimeters or 140,000, something like that. If you cut the edge of that little circle in the center, you still get the 10 points. Okay? If you hit it good enough to wipe it out, you get it 10 points and an X. So it's not easy to hit at 50 yards. Yeah, they look pretty big there, don't they? At 50 yards, this target looks like a large postage stamp to the naked eye. Alright, so I did this for the fun of it. I got a custom-made rifle, which about $1,600. I got a really good 36 power scope, Weaver T36. That's probably $400 or $500. I got a Pappas rifle stand. That's back then maybe $600. Now I think it's $8 or $9. And I had a tuner on the end of the barrel to cut down on vibration, because it's hard to hit these tiny little targets at 50 yards. Now there's a thing that happens that people who don't know anything about what you're doing don't know about, and I'll show you what it is. These tiny, let me get this darn thing. These tiny little bullets get blown off course by the wind, especially over 50 yards. A 15-mile-per-hour wind can move it an inch in one direction or the other, which way the wind's blowing. So if the wind's coming from this side right here, alright, then I'm going to aim over here, right over here, in the hope of hitting that bullseye. Okay? Now if I've taken a couple of shots and it only blew it this far over, well then that's how far I'm going to shoot over to the side of the target. And we did 3 targets like this on the benchrest match, and if you missed one of those circles, if you absolutely totally missed one of these circles, got out here, you know, where that blank mark, that would cost you 10 points, and you're not even going to come in 3rd or 4th place. You know, just one mess up like that's too much. I've done it, so I know how much it costs you on your score. But that's not what the story's about anyway. The story's about the fact that we did this every month at this particular gun club, not my gun club, but another one. And so the the match director decided that he wanted to spice things up after the match, after we'd shot 3 of these targets for the official score. He took these targets and he would glue 10 aspirins on the center of these guys, and he'd set them up at 50 yards. Now, with these finicky custom-made rifles, usually the first shot, even though you got your crosshairs on this spot, would probably land somewhere over here or up here, down there. And you'd need about 2 or 3, maybe 4 shots to warm up the barrel so it'll start hitting right where the crosshairs are at, if there's no wind, you know. Well, the rules were you got 10 shots at these 10 aspirins. Now, the match director called this drug abuse because we were abusing these aspirins, and I guess they're drugs. But he would give you back $1 of your entry fee for every aspirin that you shot off of that target. You had 10 shots, 10 aspirins. 1 shot at each aspirin. Well, this went on for a while. It was a lot of fun, but a couple of the guys was getting pretty good, and one guy for about 3 months in a row shot 10 aspirins, so he decided it had to be a lot harder. So he showed up one day with sequins, and as you know, sequins, you've seen them on the ladies' dresses, they're pretty small. They were glued on there instead of aspirins. And just by coincidence, I had made a little mount to mount my camera right on the back of the scope where I could pull the little, you know, view window open and see the crosshairs in the window. And so I made a video shooting at these sequins, and it started raining, you know, before we got started shooting at the sequins. And I don't know if the bullets hit the raindrops and deflected any or not. I don't know about that. I didn't hear any tales about it from the old hands. But anyway, I took my 10 shots, and when I got through, 7 sequins were going off the target. Well, one other guy got 7 sequins, so we got tied for first place in the sequin contest. I went home and I made the video out of it and uploaded it to YouTube. But watching it there while I was, you know, putting it together, I got to thinking, it looks to me like that one of those sequins got washed off by the rain, that I only hit 6, not 7. And so I asked my viewers to decide, did I hit 6 or did I hit 7? Kind of like, what's his name, asking the guy, do you feel lucky, punk? You know, well, I was lucky. But I think one of them washed off in the rain. So anyway, it wasn't very long after I posted this video, an expert shows up. And the first thing he says, he's not even aiming at the targets. You see his crosshairs are over to the side of it. He doesn't know what he's doing. Well, I would say that this kind of showed that this expert had never done this, because he didn't know about Kentucky windage. He didn't know you had to shoot upwind. If he'd even paid any attention when he was watching the sniper movies, he would have noticed that the spotter had a little wind device, and he would tell the guy move over a certain distance so much upwind to hit the target, because even those guys have got to compensate for the wind. Now, I had 5 wind flags between me and the target, and sometimes half of them would be pointing this way and the other half would be pointing that way. So which way do you compensate for? Well, what set me off to do the video was here the other day, I had another guy say, well, this guy doesn't even know how to aim, you know? And obviously he's an expert, because he doesn't understand about compensating for the wind. Now then, we'll move on from that to Hollywood. Yeah, we're going to talk about Hollywood too, because Hollywood puts out more bullshit than anybody that I've ever seen. It's just amazing. I remember one, they had a pipeline. They were going to put a nuclear bomb in the pipeline and send it to the head city in Alaska. And if you've ever taken a straw and put a pea in it and put your finger over the end of the straw, you know the pea won't move right there from where you put it in. And why? Because you got to have an open tube to get that pea to move down the straw. Well, that's the same thing with a pipeline. All they got to do to stop this terrorist bomb is close a valve somewhere along the pipeline, and they can't get the darn thing to go because you've plugged it up. They can't pressure the thing down the pipeline. And if they had a propeller on it or something, and it was moving down the pipeline, would have hit that valve and couldn't go any further anyway. So, on with the Hollywood BS. Not only do they make a BS movie over the pipeline, and I knew it was BS because I used to work where we had a pipeline, and we would put pigs in the pipeline, which they're not real squeaking, oinky oink pigs. They're a big chunk of rubber with a metal plate on each end that they pressure down the pipe to clean the pipe out, and they call them pigs. And you can hear it coming down the pipeline, rattling away, and it'll hit the pig receiver and pop the flag up, and you know it's there. That's to clean the pipeline out. But if you close the valve on your end, they can't get the pig to come down there. You've got to open that pipeline up to the flare or burn pit or something to let the pressure off, or the pig won't go. Alright, now then let's go to Hollywood and the old thing where you throw the bullets, you know, the cartridges, all the case in the fire, and when the bad guys show up, they start going off and killing all the bad guys. Bullshit. That doesn't work like that. A bullet, to come zooming out of there with enough velocity to hurt anybody, has to be confined in a firing chamber of a firearm. It's got to have an open end on one end of the pipe, and the other end is closed tight, so that when you set the powder off, the rapid burning of the powder builds up a lot of pressure and pushes the bullet out the end. If you don't build up all that pressure, then what you're going to do is you're just going to get the weakest point there to explode, and that's the brass, and it's going to pop like a firecracker. And proof of this is from a video. It's on YouTube, made by the Sporting Ammunition Manufacturers Institute for the Advice of Firemen. This is to show firemen that they don't actually have anything to fear because of ammunition in the house. They got something to fear from, you know, that acetylene bottle in the garage, but ammunition, no, it's just going to pop like firecrackers. And as part of their proof, they take this portable building and they fill it full of shells, and they put case after case of ammunition in there, and they set the place on fire. Then they put on these fire retardant suits, you know, with the thing over their head, and they go in there and they walk around amongst the popping and the banging, and nobody gets hurt because none of this ammunition is confined in a gun barrel, so it's just firecrackers. It's not going to hurt anybody. But I doubt any firemen have ever watched that video, but they tried to show them. And then I had one guy to tell me that his brother had dropped a cartridge and it landed on the primer and went off and shot his eye out. That's bullshit too, because it's not in a gun barrel. It just hits the ground. It's just going to explode just like a firecracker. His brother did something else, and he made up that story to cover. He was probably looking down the gun barrel and shot his eye out. That's what I figure, you know, something stupid. That doesn't work. It's just more Hollywood stuff. All right, and now Hollywood has, and there's a fire show that comes on, fire department show that comes on every week. It's a pretty good show. And they had a house on fire, and this ammunition is popping off, and they can't go in and save this little girl because it's too dangerous. Bullshit. That ammunition was just popping like firecrackers. You could have thrown a string of firecrackers in there and not done any more damage. But Hollywood, I guess the directors, either they find it easier to make up bullshit stories, or maybe the directors don't really know, you know, because they do a lot of things that are just stupid, you know. And like silencers, they go pew pew. That's total BS. I've got a silencer, suppressor. That thing is about, I would say, close to 100 decibels. Now before you put it on, you got about 130 decibels. But 100 decibels, That's louder than a jackhammer busting on concrete. It's still pretty dang loud. So this bullshit with the silencers is just bullshit. Let me think of some other BS that Hollywood does. I'll think a minute and come right back. Well, one of the things that Hollywood does, there's one of the shows in particular where all the crooks have got machine guns. Now, I've read a lot of newspaper stories and such, and you just don't hear of crooks using machine guns. In the first place, it's awful hard to get your hand on one. And in the second place, if you commit a crime with one of them, you get like about 35 years just for having the machine gun, much less whoever you shoot with it. No, crooks aren't out there using machine guns. They don't all have machine guns like in this particular island show. And another thing I saw him do was this cop wanted into a pawn shop, and the guy wouldn't unlock the door and let him in. So he goes out to his car and he gets a hand grenade. Now, what's a cop doing with a hand grenade? I don't know. He comes back, hangs the hand grenade on the door, yanks the pin and runs outside and kaboom, blows the door off of the pawn shop, off of the back room. Now, in real life, that would have got him fired and probably a prison sentence for, blowing up that that guy's pawn shop, But in the show, it was just persuasion, through a crook. Boy, they really get real. And there was a Western that was on about 20 years, and I still watch it, the reruns of it at night on some of the little side channels. And the Westerns, they were really bad about getting 15 or 20 shots from a 6-shooter. And there was one of my favorite Westerns, one I like best of all, and our hero fires 13 shots from his 6-shot revolver. The Hollywood gun. Hollywood's really bad about stuff like that, So, if you want to believe anything you see on TV, don't. If you want to believe anything you see in movies, don't. Because most of the time, they don't know anything about the subject they're showing you, and they just putting things in there because it sounds really like a good story. I'm going to put the Sammy video, a link to it down below, and I'll put a link to my sequins shooting video down below, just in case you guys want to see it. I know probably nobody will, but I'm going to do it anyway. Take care.